Hello guys, and today I'm going to talk about politics, okay? Now, yesterday, some people celebrated losing their jobs. They celebrated that they would no longer be allowed to attend a building again, or if they are, it won't be in the same capacity as part of their job. Normally, politicians campaign to keep their jobs. Normally, if they want to leave, they leave for family reasons or personal reasons, but they hope somebody else will come along that does a job as good as them or better if they genuinely want to leave. However, the people who lost their jobs yesterday, or rather spent their last day at work, depending on how you want to look at this, have been campaigning to lose their jobs. They basically told the public that they didn't want the job, and they wanted the public to vote for them so that they could then get the job, so that they could lose the job. Amazing, but true. One man had been campaigning for years to lose his job. He told the public to vote for him so that he could lose his job one day, and so that one day the job would no longer exist. Now you probably think I'm talking rubbish. You probably think maybe this guy is some joke politician, maybe they were joke politicians, maybe they were like the Monster Raving Loony Party over here, which are, a joke party that's not meant to be taken seriously. But no, these were serious politicians. One of them had even once been a member of the government, and all of them are happy that they've lost their job. Now you might think, what am I talking about? Well, yesterday was the very last time that British MEPs were allowed to take part in a debate in the European Parliament as British MEPs. They will no longer be Britain will no longer be allowed to represent their country in the European Parliament again, unless in many years' time Britain ever votes to rejoin again. If there's ever, another vote in the future and Britain decides to rejoin the EU. So they were all celebrating. They were delighted to lose their jobs. They started waving British flags in defiance of EU rules within the Parliament itself, which state they could not do so. But their view was, we're leaving, what are you going to do? They did stop when the Parliament wanted them to, and then they basically said that was the end, and presumably after that, my understanding is they then put their belongings into cardboard boxes and left. Auld Lang Syne was sung in the EU Parliament, with the blessing of the EU, as some sort of leaving party do or something. I don't understand it. Well, leaving party is probably not the right way to put this, but of some sort of leaving ceremony, if you will. Okay? Now, Britain hasn't actually left the EU yet, and Britain is still, to my knowledge, officially part of the EU for today. Tomorrow, at 11 o'clock in the evening, Britain will officially leave the EU. Then we will be free from tyranny, free from unelected bureaucrats telling us what we've got to do, free to do whatever we like, in theory. In practice, we're going to remain in the EU in all but name. In other words, we'll be officially out but unofficially still in, but without any control over what goes on. We have said that we're going to align ourselves with many of the rules that the EU already has, but by December we will then no longer do so, and we will decide what path we wish to take. But officially, we will be out of the EU tomorrow night. But in practice, we're practically out of it today. Because, as I said, last night, or yesterday, no, it's probably not right, yesterday evening I should say. No, it wasn't even the evening. Well, yes it was, I suppose. It was about, I think it was about 5 o'clock UK, I think. Something like that. As I said, there was a vote where the EU had to decide whether they would allow us to leave or not. Amazing, but true. And the EU voted to allow us to leave. So now, that was the final hurdle, although there'd be no reason why they would refuse. It was entirely a symbolic vote. And from Friday at 11 o'clock, we will be free. Free from tyranny, free from slavery, and free, in theory, to do what we want. Now, whether that's how it is going to work in practice, nobody really knows. But finally, the public are getting what the public voted for. Many politicians in Britain have tried to stop the result, they didn't like it, and they've done everything they could to delay and stop Brexit. However, those politicians will now, some of them will be losing their jobs, like for example Jeremy Corbyn, when he is replaced. I believe it's sometime in April, I can't remember the exact time, I think it's in April. And so we will find out what it's really like to be an independent sovereign country again. For example, new passports will be released with a blue cover rather than a purple one, and those passports will exclude the words European Union. It will then be interesting to see what kind of trade deals we can actually negotiate worldwide. And things like that. But as I said, it's interesting to see that politicians that had campaigned to lose their jobs actually were celebrating being told that their services were no longer required. And in practice, yesterday was their last day at work in the European Parliament. Okay? As they were not allowed to any EU debates today, and tomorrow we're officially leaving. Okay? And they were only really allowed into the EU Parliament just to be there for the vote on whether Britain was allowed to leave the EU or not. Because even though Britain voted to leave, and even though Boris Johnson had, said we would leave, and it was even passed in the British Parliament that we would definitely leave this time, we still needed the EU masters to decide whether their slaves, British citizens, should be allowed to leave the dictatorship. Okay? And the EU is to some extent a dictatorship because the public have no say in who the leader of the EU will be. And again, there are many other problems with the EU. I believe the EU itself know what the problems are, and I understand the EU themselves are going to try and address these sometime, so that maybe one day, for example, the EU president will be voted for by all the members of the public within the EU, rather than simply decided by member countries and prime ministers and people like that, with the public having no real say in it. Okay? But as I said, yesterday the politicians from Britain spent their last day at work at the EU Parliament. Tomorrow we will officially be free. But in practice we probably won't be free until December. Okay? So it must be very strange if you're a politician campaigning to lose your job. You actually want to lose your job, and you're telling other people to vote for you so that one day you can lose your job, and having to wait many, many years before you're finally allowed to lose your job. Must be strange, especially for people like Nigel Farage. But he's finally got his wish, and he's finally lost his job, which he's very pleased about. But for anybody who knows about Nigel Farage and wonders what he does in Britain anymore, and wonders how he's going to make ends meet or anything like that, he currently works on the radio as a radio talk show host for LBC, okay, where members of the public can phone in and talk to him, and it's all broadcast over the airwaves, okay? Right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!